Karina, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our seminar this afternoon. Thank you for sticking around till the last presentation. I promise it will be worth it. My name is Karina Myers. I am the Director of Application Development and Collaboration here at Red Level. I am an outdoors lover, tea drinker, technologist, passionate about technology here. So I've been in the industry for about 16 years and some change. I've worked in infrastructure, web development, e-commerce industry, user experience, customer experience, and also as a digital transformation strategist, leveraging cloud solutions. I specialize in partnering with organizations and bringing their enterprise business and technology strategies to reality. Organizations like yourself. Today, I'm looking forward to sharing with you some success stories, and I've picked 4 very good examples for the conversation today. I like for these sessions to be very conversational. So just as Megan said, post any questions. We'll address it at the end of the meeting. But I want to make sure that I am, as the thought sparks, just put it in the chat and we'll address it. Some of the conversation we're going to have this afternoon is going to be our very first example is going to be reviewing the journey that one of our clients, Region 2, aka R2 AAA, their strategy of moving to the cloud, and how did they well, still going, how are they handling the user adoption and the strategies that were put in place to optimize that. We're going to be looking at Board of Trustees and their journey with process automation and that beautiful data reporting that was done there. In Village Green, how to change what to do when you're changing a platform and how to do this in a smart way. And we're going to top it all off with DIA story and just continuing that digital transformation, beautiful digital transformation story with the DIA for the past 2 years. A lot of great things were done in the last, even in the last 8 months, it seems. So let's get ready, and we're going to get started with R2 AAA. So R2 AAA is, we're going to be covering their journey to cloud, covering their story of migrating their content to the cloud, app modernization, and user adoption. I mean, that's a lot. How do you even know you need to do that? In this case, they knew they had made a decision to move to the cloud, just kind of did their cost analysis, multiple things, and they had decided, yes, cloud is the way, but how do we get started? Of course, the main driver when moving to the cloud is you want to maximize your investments, right? Like, it's not going blindly. I want to make sure I'm picking the right tools to go to use as I'm moving to the cloud. And some of the very common indicators when you're kind of trying to make this sort of digital transformation is, what are the current issues that you're kind of experiencing in the organization? In their case, they were experiencing like shadow IT. If you're not familiar with that term, it just means basically there was a problem and the departments were sort of like coming up with their own solution. In this case, they were using, there were some departments that were using Box as a solution for file storage. Some others had started already kind of playing with Teams. And it's like really trying to solve a problem that they had and being very good at it. But the issue is that, you find yourself having multiple application platforms, and it was really hard to adapt across the organization because, there was really no that sort of governance decision at the top that kind of said, how do these tools play together? So there was a lack of standardization, even though they were efficient. They knew that it could be better. And also there was that indicator of like some time consuming tasks, just repetitive manual tasks that could be happening. So, I mean, that is a common thing that happens in organizations. If I talk with a lot of people in the leadership positions that are struggling with the same thing, you are growing fast and trying to put solutions in place, but then you're waiting for some other teams to do the same. Sometimes they just take it upon themselves to like come up with a solution. So you find yourself that there's like that isolation in communication between these departments. Very common issue. Another common issue that happens is that too many tools. Everyone just kind of comes up with something that is very good for their specific problem, but there's no common solution across the board, and it's really hard to govern when that happens. So in the case of Arthur AAA, they had come to that realization of let's just have a conversation. What does red level suggest of what should be my first step as this is happening, and how can I improve and make it so that, which is the biggest need, make it so as I roll out technology, my employees actually adopt the technology. Very common concern. It's not as easy as say, here you go, here's a tool, good luck, and this is the guidelines, these are the manuals, and then off you go. It's a little bit different because now we're human beings, we are kind of creature of habit. We have those sort of old habits that sometimes may be good, and sometimes they were just there for too long and they're not that good. So maybe, employees were used to downloading files and saving it in their local, in their desktop, or multiple versions of the same file over and over again. And you don't just forget which one is the actual last version, that's the valid version. Very simple, common issues there, but very, very common and very impactful too if it's happening in a large scale. So those are just a few examples. So the way that we address this, since we needed a path, the client was looking for guidance on what is my roadmap, where do I start, how do I begin, what should be my priority. Those very common, very big questions right there. So we start with, a conversation, cloud immersion experience with the departments, trying to solve some of the key issues that they were having. Then talked about cloud governance, because that sort of standardizes the policies across the organization. These are what the tools are going to be. This is why we decided to use those tools. These are the benefits. This is their usage. These are the teams that use it, and why we are using those. So, but what do you? I mean, after that conversation, it's probably what it happened, what you assume would have happened. There were a lot more questions after that, which is great, because that's how you know collaboration is happening. You're sort of bringing everything on the table, and let's talk about all those issues. We're solving the initial key concerns that they were having, but what about the deeper issues? So you really start looking at, we just touched the tip of the iceberg here. There's a lot more underneath, which is usually what happens. So then underneath that, you start noticing, yes, what is the root of the problem here, and how to even solve this? So after kind of unearthing a lot of the issues that are happening, there's that plan that we developed with them, was like, how do you make it so change can happen in a positive way in the organization, where user adoption can actually be efficient and have employee engagement even grow as a result of these changes. So there's that usual planning when you're talking about cloud road mapping, especially if you're migrating content, changing tools, modernizing your solutions, that we had to have with the Arthur AAA teams. Change planning, plan that program partnering phase. It's like we're partnering with them. We prepared a lot of content and communication and road mapping guidelines on how that rollout needed to happen, as even like in the pace of how it should have happened. Also gathering feedback constantly as solutions were being rolled out. How do we mitigate that change? I mean, it cannot be all at once. These are all the employees, they still need to be functional, they still need to be able to do their job, but at the same time, we need to be able to modernize their experience. And overall, by following all those steps, we were able to accomplish that business transformation experience that we were hoping for. So what were the common issues that we sort of found there? It was just that this, this three items here that you see on the right of the screen were kind of the goal of why we started this conversation. The R2AAA was looking to increase that employee engagement, increase profitability, and improve productivity. So what solutions did we come up with? As I said before, it's like the first one was just a whiteboarding session. Let's just talk about your strategy, where you're at right now, and we'll come back with something. We came back with like a very well laid out roadmap that was of about a year. And yeah, it's about a year kind of engagement where a lot of the solutions are being rolled out gradually. Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Intranet, Yammer, OneDrive, and not only some of the content that they were using that was outside of Office 365 was also being addressed, but also it was more really understanding that content and what the purpose of that content was. So if they were using, Box for a lot of their content, there was a data mapping conversation where we really kind of spent some time understanding the purpose of those files and whether they are used for collaboration or not. Depending on the purpose of those files, there was consulting that took place on advising where those could be accessed more efficiently based on their use case. So the migration to the cloud and the data mapping go hand in hand. There's a very well documented data mapping process that we followed with their team that the stakeholders agreed with, and we just kind of rolled it out all according to plan. What we also found out is that they had some, they have a need to set up like a custom file solution that kind of not only had file storage solution in SharePoint, but also some automated approval process for when those files were being uploaded. And at the same time, a file directory automation needed to happen during that time. So we looked at every single key process that they had at the time, and then we compare to what it would look like for once they moved to Microsoft 365 fully. What were the areas of improvement and optimization when it came to the process? And also the areas that were going to be the most concerning when it came to user adoption and maybe more resistance to change. So for those, if that tool was new, there was user adoption training plans that were put in place. In this case, there were a lot of these tools were pretty new for all the teams as a company, all together. Maybe there were quite a few that were kind of familiar with these technologies, but to ensure that there is common knowledge and there's governance that can be developed from it, the user adoption training plans were very important. So some of the new technology that we rolled out for R2AAA in the past, it feels like maybe 8 months, has been Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Yammer, OneDrive, and it was in a well thought out process where after migration and data mapping had taken place, there was that scheduling of migration, user adoption sessions, and then even what we call office hours, which was more like an ad hoc. I have a question. I know we just got the training, but I have a question, specific question on how to utilize these solutions. The experience has been very positive. The team has been thriving through this entire time, and they've been adopting the solutions very well. I would call that a success. But I would say the main driver on why these things are very successful. It's not only just because the planning and the mapping took place, but really is that leadership and ownership and accountability that developed within the organization, and especially at the leadership level. So Those were just the keys to success. So once you get rid of those, you sort of resolve those pain points and get the team functional. That's when you really start getting a little bit more, you're able to start thinking a little bit more how to optimize this. How can I optimize it and make it more efficient? I just don't necessarily just want it to work and be able to do the work, but how do I make it more efficient, more secure? So then we started working with them on establishing retention policies for a lot of their client documentation, looking at their compliance requirements. A lot of these documentation are, client records, like medical records, so they needed to be stored for over a year. And even if some users accidentally would have deleted those files, retention policies allow for those files to still remain in the tenant, secure, safe and secure, and have the status tracking behind the scenes. Some other enhancement has happened that wasn't necessarily part of the initial plan, but as conversations evolve and issues are being resolved, innovation starts kind of happening even more, which is synergy happens. It is totally encouraged. Another cherry on top, I would say that we were able to work together on was reimagining the leadership's experience. So if you have been using Teams for the past year or two, or if you're just a very new, whether if you're new or advanced Teams user, you may have been added to more teams that you would like to be in. That's a very common issue. Sometimes you're like, I have enough and I can't even find them, or I don't necessarily need to be added to so many teams. It's a common issue, especially if you're in the leadership position, because now you kind of want that oversight. You want to be able to monitor and have the oversight. At the same time, being added to so many teams can be very overwhelming and just too much noise. So in this case, Arthur AAA brought in that challenge to us, just explaining that their leadership didn't need to have access to a lot of these files that were being shared in Teams. However, they didn't want to be added to every single team here. So there was a portal that we ended up creating for Arthur AAA. It was like the leadership portal, which was basically if I'm me as a manager, I can come in and log in and I can see all the teams that I was added to and be able to, just in SharePoint, be able to browse through those document libraries and have more of a browsing experience instead of Teams where I don't necessarily need to collaborate with everyone and I don't really want to be clicking through all of that. So, I mean, multiple approaches, but it all started with that one conversation and trying to really understand their needs. A lot of them were very, you've heard it all before, need to improve collaboration, need to make sure that we're maximizing investments, but really looking at the specific needs of that specific department or leadership or the user, depending on the role, is what makes that the bigger difference, I would say. So why are we talking about modern workplace? I just kind of started and just kind of went right in there. But I wanted to take a moment there to just sort of do that reality check if you haven't noticed it already. If you're here, you probably have. We have been just kind of experiencing all these changes at the organizational level. There's a new generation coming in the workforce, new expectations coming in. It is how things are. You've been in the infrastructure webinar, you've been in the security webinar, you've been seeing sort of the trends of where everything is headed. There's a need for flexibility to work from anywhere. Right now, it's even, I would say, even before the 2020, but even more after 2020, portability and mobility have been a need for us to perform our work. And now, coming out of a pandemic year, now it's an expectation. Want to be able to have the flexibility to do the work from anywhere. The expectation is that by 2020, 42% of the global workforce will be mobile. I would say that's going to change even more, increase even more as the numbers come in. Some of the very common trend here is when it comes to modern workplace is that a lot of routine tasks are being replaced to open up some room for creative thinking. So what happens is really finding out that even though there's repetitive tasks that sometimes we have in our everyday work that we do at our jobs, a lot of that time could be saved and really utilized for creative thinking that would kind of advance the business even further. And that is where automation and the value of data comes in. We're really optimizing those processes and making sure that we're keeping the teams motivated, the employees, not only external users like clients, but also looking at our employees as internal users and making them efficient and helping them empowering them to be proactive. And just like R2AAA, the question is, where do I begin? There are so many roads. Everyone seems to be moving fast in different directions. Where do I start? How do I know if I'm even at this starting point or if I should stay where I am? Well, the good thing is that there is a recipe. There's success stories out there like this one where it just starts with that conversation. Role mapping, cloud strategy role mapping is a thing. We've been doing it for a long time now. That would be my recommendation as you sort of taking R2AAA as a good example of what can be done. Building a modern workplace, it's still about the same three pillars: people, processes, technology. Technology is evolving, ever changing, but people and processes are still at the core of your business, and that's still very much relevant. So even though technology is advancing, not every technology that is out there applies to your business. If it satisfies the people and the processes pillars, then yes, that's where the evaluation would happen, and those three can be satisfied to make sure that we have an optimal modern workplace. So here is a second example, a second case that I bring to you. And this one is the Board of Trustees, process automation and reporting. This is a really good example on what good data can do for you. Very successful business. They had so many events throughout the year, beautiful venues in Massachusetts. You see on the right, they have woodlands, museums, gardens, farms, you name it. They are successful. And that is where the data is like, we're good, but can we be way better than where we are right now? So they were using, their situation was that they are using a ticketing system called Acme, very, very popular museum ticketing system, where they do a lot of their kind of transactions as they're kind of getting some tickets available for a lot of the events, and people are able to, to sign up and register for those events. Just because of the success of this, of how sought out these locations are, optimal site response is key. There were tickets as we were doing our testing. Some of these events were sold out within 10 minutes, and we're talking thousands of, attendance throughout, a series of days. So, but on top of that, they were like, we have a process for this, but we want to be able to make sure we enhance the experience of our users, make it even better, even easier. We want it to be fully integrated with Acme on an advanced level integration with Acme. They also wanted to be able to, as they had some people that have signed up for events, they wanted to provide the ability to easily cancel those registrations in case they were to, not attend. Because the common issue that was happening is that sometimes they wouldn't cancel and they wouldn't attend, and those were still seats that they could have sold in a different moment. So had they canceled in the website. A very common issue too was refund. There's a slowness in refund process. They wanted to optimize that. They wanted to optimize the calendar events experience. So then it's like very focused on what was available versus sold out. I don't need to browse through the entire calendar. So it was just looking at very specific optimization of process for their visitors in their website. A very important one too was when they were doing private events, and they were trying to like the tool by default, the ticketing tool by default, you just kind of shows all your events, and they had some that they just needed to be only available to a select group, and that wasn't available. So then customization needed to happen for that, because otherwise right now what they are doing is just basically trying to just communicate it outside of the website, do the payment transactions in person or by the phone, because it's not in the website. It cannot be in the website because it's exclusive to some people, and so on. So there was overall that need for enhanced membership experience in the site. So all of this, they still had the must-haves here. It's like, I just need to be able to support high volume ticketing sales. So an optimal site response was needed. I'm happy to say that it was great planning, great partnership with Board of Trustees that kind of came to be like wonderful implementations, and it's still going. We implemented a user order history module to view the upcoming events, adjust cancellations. The client called right away. I think it was like within a week or two. It's like it paid for itself. That project paid for itself within 5 days. It's like data. That's how you know it. Data. Track what it was before and track what it is after this implementation. And how did that happen? So the enhanced calendar navigation was a big hit. A lot of users really appreciated that because they were, it was just exhausting having to like click through a calendar view of a lot of empty dates if there were only certain days that were not applicable. So now they just wanted it to be only relevant, show only relevant information to the users. Next event open based on availability in customized timeframes of events. So it's just that user experience can pay off. It is once you have your foundation of your business at the core taken care of, like governance, infrastructure, security, your licensing. How do you make it better is to make sure that you're servicing that internal and external users, your employees, and in this case of the Board of Trustees, your visitors and your members. There were a lot of other great customizations that were done throughout the year. We optimized our membership landing page. It's just a beautiful experience now. You can see the membership cards, ability to post some messages there. A lot of that kind of communication just it wasn't there before, and now it is. Just being able to track the user behavior using the smarts of Google Analytics. You know, when did a refund happen? When did a confirmation email was requested? How many times did a lookup membership happen? How many times in entering a membership number versus an email? So all those kind of trackings were very specific to understanding that end user and what their preference was. Overall, process automation and reporting was really at the core of this engagement, and it has paid off right away, just due to their, I would say, data tracking, but also their ability to just think outside the box and look at where are the areas that we can improve. We're doing great, but I know we can do better. So a fully integrated machine is really what ended up happening here. It went really well. The third case I bring to you is Village Green, which is also kind of a similar angle as Board of Trustees. They're very focused on their user experience as well. They were presented with a different kind of challenge at the beginning, though. Their website was using Drupal. It was working fine. The application was working fine. There was really nothing wrong with the website. Business was thriving, but here's where they started questioning it. We could do better. We had hosting and development that were being maintained by a third-party vendor. However, Village Green already has a team that's full of developers that maintain hundreds of WordPress client sites, and they just thought, why is it that we can't maintain our own? They were having to go to a third-party vendor. So that's kind of what it all started. But the great thing about it is that we, when they presented a lot of those requests to other places, other vendors, there was also that difficulty of sort of requirement of, I need to be able to switch platforms, but also I need to be able to maintain the existing branding, have zero downtime impact on my business, and I need to be able to optimize those existing sync jobs that I have when acquiring the floor plans and replacing the repetitive manual tasks. So that was like a tall order, just everything. Just I need to be able to, the lights needs to be on. I need to be able to continue functioning, even though my platforms are going to do a complete overhaul change. It was doable. We, with very intense planning, our development team met with stakeholders, explained the approach, which I think is so powerful when you're able to like empower the stakeholders and the user with knowledge that now they're like part of this process. They believed in that approach and the delivery time. It all made sense. We were able to accomplish a zero downtime during conversion from one platform to the next. We converted from Drupal to WordPress and migrated their content. Their site was fully functional. By the time it was switched, DNSs were switched. There was full integration with diverse floor plan sources. They were using Rent Cafe API. There was also the manual upload need. We had to build some custom API for some other application that we're using. But now we're happy to say it is fully integrated. Those floor plans for these apartments in their website, they come in seamlessly and they load up seamlessly. And on the back end, the admin and the content managers are able to feel empowered and do the work themselves instead of being dependent on a third-party vendor that might have managed those a lot more heavily. There was also, we ended up building a custom console app to create the floor plans exports from Rent Cafe, because as Village Green, they don't only have apartments or properties that they display in their website, but they also have clients that have their own websites that display apartments, say like an apartment complex or so. So now they sort of extended that feature from their main website into all these other individual sites that they have for their customers and expanded that experience to them. And that was all just due to automation and being able to build that custom console app that just runs and scans and syncs information for them in the back end that just makes it look so seamless. So I would encourage you to really think of, look at this Village Green example and see how things were working fine, but really look at those areas where you could probably wonder and say, I just wish it could do this one thing. It's doable. Most likely it is doable, and most likely it can be optimized. And once that pain point is removed from you, it can be done even better. And new features, new ideas, that's where innovation happens. So I'm going to take some time here on the DIA. This is the last case I have for you, the digital transformation. I call it accelerated because it's just is the gift that keeps on giving. DIA had started, the Detroit Institute of Arts, they had started in their digital transformation journey in 2020 with the COVID-19 response, the custom ClearPass solution that we built for them. But they didn't stop. There's a whole lot of innovation that happened ever since that started. So whereas COVID-19 really made it a challenge for a lot of organizations, forcing organizations to pivot and come up with new strategies, sort of scratch the previous plan they did for 2020 and come up with a new one at the beginning of the year. There were some of those organizations that really raised above, like DIA, and came up with these wonderful revolutionary solutions for their business and for their industry that really made them sort of like the trailblazers of that industry, coming up with all this cutting edge technology. And we were more than honored to partner with them and be able to bring those ideas to reality. So the ticketing web app, a lot of these solutions are using highly secured platforms, in this case, Azure. We built a web app solution to handle this in Azure. The ticketing web app specifically was looking to improve visitors' checkout experience. It just, they wanted to be able to make that transaction a lot more seamless, keep users from navigating away from their site, and also make sure that there was that sort of custom experience during checkout as it relates to, just as the DIA, they have their model of, you know, donations, discounts during checkout. That is a little bit more a little bit specific to their business, to their nature than any other museum in a different area. So ticketing web app was able to address those needs. It was a custom app that was built just for the IA with the specific requirements, and that's still integrated with Acme also, just like Board of Trustees does. Integrated with Acme on the Acme API, and just sort of made that ticketing checkout process seamlessly. For the ticketing web app, there was also that custom schedule job that sends email requesting confirmation of attendance to a particular event, just like Board of Trustees. They wanted to make sure that that the attendance, the people that had registered for events were actually planning to attend. If not, then refund cancellations would happen, and then that spot would be available for other people that were interested in that. So really maximizing their investment right there. And also just being able to enable those discounts based on memberships with reciprocal museums with a ticketing app. So very robust web app. It is integrated in Azure, and it just kind of ties into their public website seamlessly. But it's a full engine and with notifications and automation behind the scenes. Pretty amazing. We had the COVID-19 response custom ClearPass that kind of started in 2020. That was just very specific to just having that tracking and check-in, check-out experience of us according to capacity in the building during COVID, where everyone just kind of where we all had the sort of limited capacity, and that needed to be tracked. And they continued to do it. Of course, in their case, they had a little bit more of a robust design where there was like an approval process and pre-registration requirements and a security component from the security guards that they have at the entrance of the museum. So very well designed process right there for the COVID-19 response that really allowed visitors to come in and enjoy the museum and their exhibitions and feel safe during those times, and even now. I said that it didn't stop there, and I meant it. There was a lot of innovation that came happening where now it's like cashless, touchless solutions just kind of started blooming from those two projects. We had built the Lotus Ofrenda response stations, which is just the short name for the implementation of ability to be able for the visitors to be able to text a number and provide their feedback about a specific exhibit that they were visiting, in this case Lotus and Ofrenda, and after an approval process, it would go and show beautifully in the screens in the building right outside that exhibition for other visitors to enjoy. From their phone, they could just easily text it. Approval process comes in, it goes to SharePoint, gets approved, and then it just goes into that beautiful screen device in the wall. Seamless, touchless from their phone, very easy, a lot easier than what probably would have been in different times, filling out a form or like some kind of a, I would think. The queue management app was also another initiative that came up where it's for an exhibition, as we're kind of handling, trying to track capacity, also needed to manage that queue of people that were signed up and waitlisted. And once they were waitlisted, they would be getting a message, like a text message, so then they knew that they were up next. Just a beautifully implemented process of automation and notifications that kind of made that experience at the museum not only just seamless and pleasant, but in a way it's just, you know, cutting edge technology. It's like really feeling that digital transformation wherever you go throughout the building. Security was put in place too, and just as always, retention policies for a lot of their files. And the most recent work that we're doing with them, with the DIA, is the gesture control, Mosha. We have a video that kind of expands a little bit on what it does, but it really is revolutionizing the way we do exhibitions. And DIA is sort of in the front of that initiative, bringing this to Detroit. Pretty amazing technology. We're so excited that's happening. It's really kind of getting into that Internet of Things roadmap that they had embarked about a year ago, and just keeps on evolving. So we're gonna segue to the video, but I want to leave you with that thought of just take a look at this journey and see how it all started with just a need or trying to pivot because we had a problem. You need to, because how COVID-19 responds, and we needed to track capacity, but it just turned into something so beautiful that now it's just innovation at every turn. And so just, you know, digital transformation can be complex. It changes how enterprises work and go to market, but it creates long-term opportunities for you as the organization, and for us as the users to just kind of see what is next. And this is just the beginning. Now we're going to go and show that video. It's only a couple minutes, but it will showcase some of the beautiful work that we've been doing with the DIA.
Jarvis, you up?
Will you, sir, always?
We've all been fascinated by the worlds of possibility presented in sci-fi stories. Our heroes are searching through data for answers to save the day with a wave of their hand. The dreams of science fiction are becoming reality today with the futuristic gesture control interface of Red Level's Mosha. The future is now at a museum near you. Mosha was developed by Red Level in concert with a team of curators, interpretive planners, and technologists at one of the nation's leading art museums, the Detroit Institute of Arts. The cutting-edge spatial computing revolutionizes museum visitor experiences. allowing visitors to look deeper than ever before and interact with the museum's collection like never before. Red Level's Mosha system is quick to implement. A simple video camera captures natural hand movements, and Mosha's sophisticated computer vision models translate the gestures and motion to unlock your exhibitions and artifacts, allowing visitors to browse the collection and access additional educational and historical content from your curators. Mosha is the latest innovation from Red Level, designed for the museum community. Following Linea, a queuing app to help museums safely open during the pandemic, and Curia, a collaborative exhibition planning app helping curators design engaging exhibitions. Transport your visitors into the future while they're exploring the past with Mosha, the innovative gesture control interface designed exclusively for the museum community. Learn more at redlevel.com/Mosha.
That was a really good video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Let's see if I can bring up my presentation now. So as we wrap up our Modern Workplace Seminar Summit, I do want to leave you with these takeaways. Modern Workplace, there is a lot to cover, just like as you've seen with the other webinars when we talked about infrastructure from the infrastructure team and also from the security team with Jesse. But it's about establishing that solid cloud governance. And from there, you're able to grow that business into with the same mindset and expand it even more in a strategic way. I would encourage you to develop that creative thinking by removing repetitive tasks. Look at automation. That's how we can help. Process automation is what is trending, just like security is so sought out these days. The next one is process automation and data reporting and visualizations. Build solid reports. Establish those metrics. Data warehouse that data, so then it has some beautiful, analysis, and build those visualizations, even if it's in a tabular mode. But rich data is what's going to bring that, inform what those optimizations that you do next are going to be. And spend some time, continue understanding that end user, the internal and external user. There's a lot of behavior and a lot of process that happens from that user that can be optimized and improved and standardized. And at the end of the day, it will maximize that investment that you're doing and reduce the costs sometimes. And it's really time to think outside the box. The way that it used to be, it doesn't have to be that way anymore. There's new ways that are faster, smarter ways of improving your everyday processes. It's really evolving so fast, and all it takes is really having that one question of, what can I do better as you continue? So the future is bright, and now I'm open for any questions, if any. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much, Karina. As we mentioned before, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them through the Q&A tab. We are more than happy to answer them for you. So first question that we had come in, how do I know if my organization has the appropriate levels of governance?
That's a good question. So most of the time when we engage with an organization, they have some level of governance. They have had the conversations. There's usually a team that has sort of established some kind of documentation, and it's a very well, thought out process sometimes. I would say that it still needs to be one of those, just like with security, you gotta have those sort of tried and true process of governance, especially if we're talking about like Microsoft cloud governance. There's all these pillars that you gotta hit. I think at this point we're like close to 180 some check boxes that we gotta check, and each one of those have even more in there as part of that one robust checkbox. It really, I would say, put it to the fire. Is everyone actually applying what's written in that document? If it's not, then I would say it needs to be reviewed. And probably it may not be solving every problem you have, because most likely it was only a team or somebody that kind of tried to develop it, but governance is really an overall guidelines and policies across the organization, and that's how it needs to be addressed. So the governance conversations that we carry as a Microsoft partner is thorough, and we have beautiful documentation that kind of gives you that sort of whole policies that come out of those conversations. And organizations out of those conversations, out of those governance engagements that we engage in, our organizations take that as their guideline, and it's a live document that continues to grow as they evolve, their technology evolves. And that's how it should be. There's the why, there's a reason. It's not only telling you the tool and what it does, but it's also telling you the reason why that was decided that way. And that's really at the core of everything. Getting that, that's how you get the user adoption. It's if you really get the team behind those initiatives across the organization.
Okay, the next question that came in, how can I address resistance to change in the organization?
Especially when moving to the cloud, I'm guessing that that's kind of where that question is coming from, is especially as you're adopting M365 or using the cloud solution, it is not the usual, 10 years ago rolling out a technology and it's just one piece of software and off you go. Change is needed. Collaboration has evolved tremendously in the past 10 years. The way that business used to be done before is not the same. People are different, generations are different. Technology is evolving so rapidly, and expectations, not only from the employees, but also your end users especially, that's like a big driver on why sometimes these changes need to happen. Because if it is an internal user, maybe having trouble finding that great talent could be because internally, some of the processes or some of the things that we have need to be updated. Maybe we're having problems finding that those visitors in that audience, capturing that audience that we're looking to capture. Probably because something needs to change. The way that you address change in the organization is really understanding that user that you're trying to target. Is it your internal user, your employee? Is it your external user? Your clients, multiple types of clients, personas all over the place. Could be vendors, could be, contractors, visitors, members, etc. Understanding that end user and what motivates them, and from there, really building out that communication plan as change is coming. It's resistance to change is usually due to ignorance, or like they didn't lack of knowledge. They didn't know it was coming, or they feel forced to do it. So the more you can build up that user adoption, and there's a proven path for that. That's why we build this cloud strategy road mapping, because it's not just one day you turn off the lights and then now you're moving to this place. It cannot be done that way anymore. Businesses need to continue thriving. So the road mapping should include that user adoption and communication plan, as it should be top of mind as you're rolling out those roadmaps, strategy plans.
Okay. Next question. What do you look for when matching an adoption tool with a partner?
An adoption tool with a partner. I guess I'm not sure what you're talking about when you mean a partner, but we usually, when we're evaluating tools, we do the competitor analysis too. So we really look at the overall. We usually like to have what we call discovery sessions. We hold the discovery sessions, understand sort of like the 360 view of what the problem could be and the multiple needs that they are across the company, and try to maximize that investment. So we could be big fans of one tool, but if it doesn't cut it, then it doesn't cut it. So the adoption tool needs to satisfy most of the needs, and it should be able to expand from where you're starting. Like, that's where you look at that roadmap. If you're planning to expand that area where you're rolling out that adoption tool, that tool should be extensible. It should be able to grow with your business. Should be able to have the support that your business is going to need as you're growing, and expect that you're going to grow. Your technology is going to grow. Your technology is going to evolve. That solution, sometimes the shiniest solution is not the best because it needs to be tried and true. That's why we usually use a lot of the Microsoft cloud solutions for that reason, because it's been proven. All these collaboration tools, the user adoption tools that they have, it is proven to be successful, and it's being used for, very successfully for big organizations. So I would say just look at that long term as you're kind of evaluating a user adoption tool. Think long term, think where you're headed, and see if that tool is going to be able to support it.